Hey everyone, Will Brink here, brinkzone.com. This story is one that I have thought long and hard on over the years whether I really wanted to tell it, because it's kind of depressing, for one thing. Anyone that knows the story tangentially knows it doesn't have a happy ending, but I had a very insider connection to it, which I'll get to in a minute. It does take some build up, but I promise it's going to be an interesting story about the really dark side of bodybuilding. So, super quick summary. Just FYI, I'm assuming that people already know this one, but some people, it's been a while, probably don't really know the story of Craig Titus. So just quick summary. If you don't remember, Craig Titus was a well-known bodybuilder in the 90s. Was in all the magazines, fairly successful. Didn't win big shows, but he did okay. Top tens type thing. He was always known as kind of the bad boy of bodybuilding. Hothead, getting into fights. Gold's Gym and so forth, and ended up murdering somebody, and is sitting in jail with a life sentence as we speak. His wife, who I knew, she did get paroled out a few years back, kind of disappeared. So if you don't know this Craig Titus story, look it up and stuff. But I knew Craig Titus fairly well, but he and I had a very good mutual friend. His name was Matt Klein. So let's start with, early 90s, something in that maybe mid 90s, something in that ballpark. Matt Klein, I knew as a kid, as a teenager. His father, Dr. Klein, was an optometrist, good guy, was a client of mine. Again, I had a private training business way back in the day while I was going to night school and stuff. And his father was a client of mine. He said, my son Matt would like to meet you. He knows you from the magazines, and he's really into bodybuilding and all that. And so I met Matt, and he was only maybe 17 or 18, something like that. So met Matt, became really friendly with him. He was a good kid. He was big. Matt had really good genetics. I mean, Matt could have been, if his health had not gone down the tubes, he had some serious medical problems that came up not too much later again, and this all has to come back to Craig Titus, unfortunately. As far as I'm concerned, Craig Titus pretty much ruined Matt's life, and Matt did die, which we'll get to. But so I knew Matt, from way back, good kid, tremendous genetics. I mean, Matt was, you hear from a client or I say, yeah, my kid's into, he's a teenager, he's into bodybuilding, like, okay, cool, you expect to see, your basic teenager. Matt was fucking huge. He was 250, something like, at least probably 250 at that age, and muscular and strong. So I was like, okay, well, this kid's for real. He has potential, to do something in bodybuilding. So at some point, I don't know where Matt hooked up, connected with, this is, a little few years later, but not a lot later. I don't know exactly where Matt Klein and Craig Titus became friends. That I'm not sure of where they connected. Probably some show or something. But anyway, they were like super buddies, and Craig Titus came to Massachusetts, or I lived in Massachusetts, so did Matt, and all that, to visit Matt. And Matt said, I'm going to bring Craig over, and we'll go out and have something to eat. And, again, Craig, I knew obviously who Craig was. In fact, I knew Craig. I'm going to back up a little bit. The first time I actually was exposed to Craig Titus was at the USA's in Denver, Colorado. Craig took second in that show, and he took his number off, and he threw it on the floor, and he stormed off stage. This was my first exposure to Craig Titus. Personally, right there and then, I thought he should have been banned from competing, at least, for a time, if not for a while. Craig was a hothead, very poor sportsman. He took second legit. He looked good, but he didn't look good enough to win. Anyway, so Matt says, I'm going to bring Craig over. We're going to have dinner. We'll go out, we'll have something and talk, blah, blah, blah. I said, okay. And on my first meeting with Craig Titus, I knew right away that he was a sociopath. he was very charming, good-looking guy. Just and again, I grew up. If you watch my other video, I grew up on the streets of Brooklyn in the '70s and '80s, and the old Italian guys had an expression which was "Don't never bullshit a bullshitter." And I could, I would knew these type of guys. I could read them a mile away. And Craig Titus right away. He was very nice to me. He was always really cool with me. I did give him some advice, nutrition, training, whatever, on and off over the years occasionally. But I knew right away. And I told Matt, I said, Matt, be careful of this guy. I telling you, this guy is, and I didn't know he was psychotic, like to the level of that he'd kill somebody. But at the time, again, I read him right away. He was just too, well, if you know one, like I said, if been around this kind of people, you know him when you see him. And I warned Matt right there and then. I said, be careful of this guy. I'm telling you, he's manipulative. He's a sociopath. And Matt said, no, bro, he's, if anybody knew Matt Klein, you'd know that actually is exactly how he sounded. But yeah, bro, I'm telling you, he's cool. Don't worry about it, blah, blah, blah. So, few years, later, so Matt moves out to Vegas to live right next to freaking Craig, right on the same block. He got a house so he could be by his buddy Craig, and they're out in Vegas and living the life, doing the whole bodybuilder thing and the partying and all that. And so the Olympia was coming up, and Matt said, why don't you come out and stay at my place? We'll hang out, we'll have fun and all that. So I went out to Vegas. This would have been late 90s, 96, 97, something like that. When the Olympia was still at the Mandalay and all that. And so I'm at Matt's house, and he says, let's walk down the street to Craig's and, hang out. And so we walk down there, and we're there for a little while. And it was quiet. It was kind of quiet when I got there. It was just Craig and his wife, Kelly, and maybe somebody else. And it was just, we were hanging out. It was all good. And then, I don't know, a few hours into it, people started to show up. Across the street, apparently there was a house full of dancers / prostitutes who lived with their pimp, something, drug dealing or something. They showed up, so now there's 20 people in there, and now there's the weed is, the air is thick with weed, and there's drugs going on, and it's just full on debauchery. And again, I can assure you that growing up in the 70s and 80s in New York and Brooklyn and all that, sex, drugs, and rock and roll was not a song. It was Friday in New York City. So I am not I was not an uptight person. I'm not an inexperienced person. But again, I was really past all that kind of thing. And I said, Matt, I got to get out of here. I said, he goes, oh, bro, what's the problem? I said, Matt, with my luck, I'll be hanging out here just enjoying drinking my beer and stuff, and the cops will kick the door in, and I'll, and he goes, no, man, we're cool. It'll be fun. Don't worry about it. This happens all the time. I said, look, I just can't chance it. I just really don't want to be part of it. And I got to get out of here, man. He's all right, let's go. So again, that Craig's lifestyle and all that was just too much for me. I just wasn't into it. Again, I am not an uptight person. I like my drink, when I'm into it, but I really felt my problem mostly was I didn't really judge or give a damn that these people were doing all sorts of drugs and stuff, and I'm not even going to mention them, but I'm sure you can figure it out. It was mostly my worry, again, like I say, was with my luck, the cops would, freaking SWAT team would kick the door in, and, I'd be rounded up, and, I was a well-known entity in the magazines and all that at the time, and I just didn't want. So anyway, there's, more Craig, but again, Craig, like I say, was really cool with me. I have nothing negative to say of how he treated me, but I just knew trouble when I saw it. And that was, like I said, I didn't want any part of that. But over the years, I hung out with Craig many times, usually at some show with Matt, having dinner and all stuff, that kind of thing. So I knew him pretty well, mostly through Matt. So, again, fast forward or a few more years, Matt moves back to Massachusetts. His health is he's in really bad shape. His health, the partying, the drugs. Matt had, a heart problem. I think from what Matt had told me that, Craig had finally shown his true colors to Matt as far as what kind of person he really was. And things weren't going very well for Craig, at the time. So Matt moved back to Massachusetts to get away, be done with Vegas. I think pretty much done with Craig. I mean, I think they were still friends and all that for sure. But I think, Matt finally just realized, I think that he had to get his act together and come back to Massachusetts. So, the whole thing with Craig killing somebody, a woman that he and his wife were having a relationship with. She worked for Craig. Something. The whole thing is, I get a call from Matt. It says, Will, the FBI is at my house, and they know where Craig is. And I go, I wasn't totally sure. I didn't know how bad it was, but we knew Craig had been involved in something bad, that he was on the run, that he was on the lam. Obviously, it got around pretty fast, but I, didn't know how bad it was. I mean, that he had, like I say, killed somebody and then set the body on fire and, brother. Anyway, Matt calls me and says, Will, the FBI is at my house. Because remember, when Craig left the state, it became federal. If you are on the lam, as they say, and you cross state lines, this now becomes federal. And so the FBI had been listening, knew where he was. They were GPSing his phone. Craig, like a lot of criminals, not probably the brightest. Anyway, so Matt calls me up and says, hey, Will, the FBI's at my house. They're tracking Craig. Craig is coming here. I think, Craig called me, and I don't know exactly what Craig's plan was to driving all the way from Nevada to Massachusetts to see Matt. I think, as I understood, I was going to maybe borrow some money, and then what? I don't know what he thought he was going to do. But anyway, he said, the FBI's at my house. What do you think I should do? I said, Matt. Now, I also assumed the FBI was listening to this phone call. I don't know if they were, but I assumed they were. Anyway, I said, Matt, listen to me carefully. He's done. Okay, he's going to jail. He's done. There's nothing you can do for him. So cooperate with the FBI at this point, because if you don't, you're going to go to jail. You're going to be screwed. They'll screw you. They're going to get you for, accessory or, whatever. I said, and there's nothing you can do for Craig Titus. I know you guys are friends, and I said, but just listen to me carefully, do what they tell you to do, cooperate, because he's fucking toast. Okay. And you don't need to be toast. You got enough problems. He's not doing you any favors. Why he's driving to Massachusetts to see you, I don't know, but don't screw this up, kid, because, Matt was still younger, still a pretty young guy. He was, I don't know, late 20s, maybe early 30s, but something in that ballpark. But anyway, so the FBI, set Craig up. Matt arranged, where to meet him, which the FBI, I'm assuming the FBI said, that Pat had all planned out where we want you to meet him so we can arrest him without, a lot of trouble. Again, Craig, after, he's on the run for murder. He's a big guy. He's a violent guy. I mean, remember, Craig had been to jail at least once before, if not twice before, for other things. So the FBI was, genuinely concerned that Craig would maybe put up a fight and, hurt somebody. So they, Matt, as you'd expect, Matt was not sure what he should do exactly. That's what I told him to do. And I told him, just don't screw this up, Matt, because, like I say, he's done, and you don't need to go down with this guy, because he's going to take everybody with him that he can. Craig was, like I say, a sociopath like him, and I guess we could say psychopath, but anyway, they tend to rap, again, they're charming people. They're very well-spoken. They know how to kind of read people and manipulate them, and they get people kind of all wrapped up into their circle, into their craziness, basically. And Craig, really had done that with Matt, in my view. And so I think, he still, Craig still had some, I don't know, control is the right word, but influence over Matt. And I said, Matt, this is it. This is end of the road. This is end of the road. Don't screw this up. So just do what you're told, and you'll be okay. And he was. They didn't press charges on Matt. And I again, if Matt had misled the FBI or lied to them or whatever, yeah, I mean, I think they would have thrown the book at him, and they would have got him for a number of things, and they would have been federal level things. And anyway, so Craig is arrested. That's most of my Craig Titus story. And I met with Matt, shortly after that. And, it was just a terrible story, and Matt by that point, Matt's health and his mind and all that were just gone, and he died. I don't know, maybe a few years after that, something in that ballpark. He died of complications. Like I say, Matt had a heart problem from all the drugs, which again, more or less, Craig Titus, every time problems for Matt's life would come up, the name Craig Titus would come up. That whole story of Matt's heart problems were an infection that he got from injecting drugs, and he got a very bad staph infection that went to his heart, and so he had serious problems, and he ultimately died of that infection. And it was very sad, just such a waste. Matt was, like I say, as a young guy, he was a good kid and a smart kid, and he could have just followed his father's. And my advice to him was, again, bodybuilding. Not a lot of people make a real good living from bodybuilding. And I said, with your serious heart issues on, I mean, your potential as far as like competing and getting contracts, that's all gone. I said, my advice to him was, go work with your father, go to school, become an optometrist. His father did very well. He had a chain of optometry places, and, life would have been good. But no, he was a stubborn kid, and he wanted to stay big, and he wanted to kind of stay in the lifestyle, and it killed him. So that's my Craig Titus story, dark side of bodybuilding story. And I don't think a lot of people know what happened to Craig Titus, but they don't know the whole thing leading up to it, as far as where he went and who he was trying to get with. Why, again, I don't know what was the motivation. His mind was driving across the country, and I don't know what he thought Matt was going to do for him. Like I said, I think he was going to try to get some money off Matt, and then what? I don't know. Jump on a plane to Colombia. I don't know. Anyway, so that's my dark side of bodybuilding story that I have thought for a long time whether it's something I should really tell. I feel like it's time I can tell that one. There's a lot of fun stories in bodybuilding. There was a lot of good times, but it has some real dark sides too. More than maybe most people realize, because the shiny magazines tried to sort of make people think that bodybuilders mostly lived healthy lifestyles and all that, and unfortunately most of them did not and do not. Okay, so hope you please like this vid. Leave comments below if you got any questions I can answer. Do that. Sub up, and I'll see you guys on the Brink Zone.